911, where's your emergency?
I can't find my daughter.
Okay, when was the last time you seen her?
We were here at the park, and people said that probably somebody took her.
Okay. How old is she?
She's 5 years old.
Okay, and what park are you at?
Here in Bridgeton Park.
Okay, where at in the Bridgeton Park are you?
The one with the basketball court where high school is.
Okay, so you're at the basketball courts behind the high school?
Yes.
The search for 5-year-old Dulce Alavez intensified Saturday as 3 witnesses emerged from vehicles, one after another, 2 females and a young boy. Investigators returned with them to the spot where the little girl was last seen alive.
Makes me sick. My stomach's in knots right now, and I'm just praying for the safe return of this child.
I just want to find her. I want to find her that she's okay. Nothing bad's happened to her.
They say Dulce was seated in the back seat and then driven away. Her disappearance, of course, has sparked an all-out search 2 days and 2 nights, and now into the 3rd day. This community is doing its part to help, too.
It was an ordinary Monday afternoon in September, the kind of day that blends into the background of normal life. School buses pulling up to the curb, kids tumbling off with heavy backpacks, a mother waiting, planning a simple outing to shake off the routine. They stopped for ice cream on the way. The little girl was wearing white pants with butterflies on them, a yellow shirt, and white sandals. She was 5 years old, full of energy, and by all accounts, absolutely fearless in the way that only a little kids can be. They pulled into the parking lot at Bridgeton City Park in New Jersey. The playground was just about 30 yards away. The children ran ahead the way children do. Without hesitation, without looking back, everything looked exactly the way it was supposed to look. And then, a few minutes later, everything changed. The little boy came back to the car alone. He was 3 years old, visibly upset, pointing back toward the playground. His mother got out of the car, she walked over, she looked around, and the little girl, her 5-year-old daughter, Dulce Maria Alavez, was nowhere to be found. No warning, no noise, no explanation, just gone. This is one of the most baffling true crime cases in modern American history. A child who disappeared from a public park in the middle of the afternoon with people nearby. And somehow, to this day, no arrest has ever been made, no confirmed suspect has ever been identified, and Dulce has never come home. What you're about to hear is a full documentary-style breakdown of everything investigators uncovered, every lead that went cold, and every question that still does not have an answer. Before we go any further, I'd drop a comment and tell me where you are watching from. This story has reached every corner of this country, and if true crime documentary content like this is what you are here for, make sure you are subscribed. We go deep on every case we cover, and we never cut corners. Now, let us go back to that park and start at the very beginning. Dulce Maria Alavez was born in April of 2014 in Bridgeton, New Jersey, a small city in Cumberland County, one of the most economically challenged counties in the state. A tight-knit community where the same families have known each other for generations, and where news travels fast. Her mother, Noema, was just 14 years old when Dulce was born. Because Noema was so young, Dulce was primarily raised by her maternal grandmother, Norma, who eventually became her legal guardian. That was not a sign of dysfunction. It was a family pulling together the best way it knew how. By all accounts, Dulce was deeply loved. Her mother described her as spunky and sweet, always handing out hugs and kisses, always in motion. She was obsessed with the Disney film Frozen, and loved pretending to be a princess. She was the kind of child that lights up every room she walks into. Her father, Edgar Perez, had been part of her life in the earlier years, but in 2018, just over a year before she disappeared, he was deported to Mexico. That detail would resurface later in the investigation in ways nobody initially expected. By September of 2019, Noma was 20 years old. She had a 3-year-old son named Manny and was 5 months pregnant with her 3rd child. Dulce had just started kindergarten. Brand new classroom, brand new routine, settling in 1 week at a time. On the afternoon of September 16th, 2019, Dulce got off the school bus at her grandmother's house the same way she had every day since school started. Her mother was there. Her little brother Manny was there. Noma's younger sister was there too. Someone suggested going to the park. They made a quick stop at a nearer gas station for ice cream. And security footage from that stop captured exactly what Dulce was wearing. White pants with butterfly and flower prints, white sandals, and a yellow shirt with a koala on the front. That image, that description, would end up on flyers and news broadcasts shared millions of times across the country. But in that moment, standing in that gas station, nobody knew what was coming. It was just a family, on a Monday, getting ice cream, heading to the park. Bridgeton City Park sits on roughly 1,000 acres of land in Cumberland County. Walking trails, open fields, basketball courts, a playground, and wooded areas that stretch back further than most people realize. The kind of park where people jog and walk their dogs and let their kids run free, because nothing bad has ever happened there before. Noma pulled into a parking space beside the basketball courts at around 4 in the afternoon. The playground and the swings were roughly 30 yards away across the grass, close enough to feel comfortable. Dulce and Manny jumped out and ran straight for the playground. Noma stayed in the car with her younger sister who was doing homework. She scratched a lottery ticket. At around 4:20, roughly 20 minutes after they arrived, something happened near that playground. The accounts of exactly what happened next are not entirely consistent, and that inconsistency would become a significant point of scrutiny as the investigation developed. What is known as this: at some point, Manny ended up near the car without his sister. Some early reports said he ran back on his own. Noma later clarified that she and her sister had gotten out of the car when they could no longer see the children, and found Manny standing nearby, crying, his ice cream dropped on the ground. She asked him where his sister was. He pointed toward the buildings on the edge of the park. Noma's first instinct was not full panic. She thought maybe Dulce had wandered off. Maybe she was playing hide-and-seek. She looked around the playground. She checked near the buildings. She called her brother, who lived nearby, to come out with the dog and help search. Nothing. She then approached some of the young people on the basketball courts. One of them told her they had seen Dulce running toward the buildings, and that a man had been in the area at the same time. But the descriptions from different witnesses did not line up. One described an African-American man near the buildings. Another described what appeared to be a red van and a Hispanic man in the vicinity. Right from the beginning, the picture was fractured. By the time Noema called 911 and officers arrived...
Hello, ma'am? Hello. Hi, did you see which direction your child went? No, we were in the car. She came down with my son. They were running to the park, and then me and my sister, we came down. But when we got here at the park, she wasn't here. They said that my son was just crying with his ice cream. Because somebody threw his ice cream in the floor, and my daughter just ran away.
All right. You didn't see anyone else around there that she could possibly have went with?
No, not that I know of. There's just some other people that they're here that said that they saw her running through some houses in the back, and they said that they saw two men. They saw a black guy and they saw a Mexican man with two kids.
Who's saying that they saw them?
Because there's people here in the basketball court that they saw her. They said that they saw her running.
What color top does she have on?
I don't remember.
Are you at the basketball court?
Yes, I'm right here right now.
And do you have your son with you, or is your son...
No, I have my son with me. They say he was crying when we found him. He was just standing there crying.
Okay, he was standing there crying. So who... You said that the black males took his ice cream?
No, they threw it in the floor. They had threw it in the floor.
So the two males took his ice cream and threw it on the floor, and then they left with your daughter?
Probably, because I didn't saw it. When we came and looked for her, we were looking everywhere for her, and we couldn't find her.
Her son was at the basketball court with her daughter, that there was two black males that took her son's ice cream and threw it on the ground and left with her daughter. Are you on Mayor Aiken?
I already have an officer here.
Okay. All right, go speak with the police, ma'am, okay?
Roughly 45 minutes had passed since Dulce was last seen. In missing child cases, the first hour is everything. That window had already been substantially eaten into before the search even officially began. The response was immediate and massive. Local police, state investigators, FBI agents, dog handlers, dive teams, and volunteers all converged on 1,000 acres of parkland in New Jersey, racing against a clock that everyone knew was running low. The bloodhounds were deployed first. They picked up a scent and followed it for roughly an hour, then lost it completely. Scent trailers that end at pavement. They end when someone gets into a vehicle. That detail, as quiet as it was, said a great deal. There were no security cameras on or near the playground. The park had no direct camera coverage of the area where Dulce was last seen. Footage from the gas station confirmed the family's earlier stop. Footage from the park's perimeter confirmed she had been there. But the playground itself, the 30 yards of grass between the swings and the parking lot, was a surveillance blind spot. In a case where every second of footage matters, that blind spot was enormous. Police Chief Michael Gamari confirmed that in the window surrounding Dulce's disappearance, approximately 400 vehicles had been in or around the park. 400. On a single afternoon. From an investigative standpoint, the pool of potential witnesses was massive from day one. FBI Special Agent Daniel Garabin made a statement early in the investigation that stuck with people following the case. He said whoever did this was likely familiar with Bridgeton, familiar with that park specifically, because they appeared to know how to move through the space without drawing attention. They knew where the cameras were and where they were not. That level of familiarity does not come from a stranger passing through. It suggests someone with a real connection to the area. There was another painful irony. Hundreds of volunteers showed up in those first hours because they genuinely wanted to help, but the park had not been immediately secured as a crime scene. By the time forensic teams arrived, foot traffic from well-meaning volunteers had already moved through the playground and surrounding areas. Any footprints, any tire tracks, any trace evidence sitting right there waiting to be collected, significantly compromised before it could be gathered. The community came out because they cared, and in doing so, they may have inadvertently erased some of the very evidence that could have pointed investigators in the right direction. On September 17th, roughly 28 hours after Dulce was last seen, a description of a red van with sliding doors and tinted windows was issued. That same day, an Amber Alert finally went out.
Breaking news from South Jersey. The disappearance of 5-year-old Dulce is now a crime investigation of utmost urgency. Action News reporter Dan Quayer is live at Bridgeton Police. Dan, what are you learning there?
Well, Jim, it is something that everyone had feared. Within the last hour, the New Jersey State Police issued an Amber Alert saying they now have reason to believe the 5-year-old was abducted based on information they have received.
Complete strangers from the area are consumed by the long, agonizing search for the child.
I feel as if it were my own family because we all have children and we don't want anything like this to happen. It's something really ugly.
This makes me sick. My stomach is in knots right now, and I'm just praying for the safe return of this child.
Coming true for a mother in South Jersey after her daughter disappears from a park.
And police have now issued an Amber Alert for 5-year-old Dulce Maria Alavez.
Police tell Eyewitness News that this Amber Alert was issued yesterday late in the evening after investigators interviewed and re-interviewed a number of people who were out here at this Bridgeton Park on Monday afternoon around the time that this child disappeared. And now they do believe the little girl was abducted, taken by a man in a red van. We do have a description of that suspect. But first, Eyewitness News was also able to speak with this child's mother, who is pleading for her daughter's safe return. Take a listen.
I just want to find her. I want to find her that she's okay. Nothing bad's happened to her.
Investigators say the suspect lured Dulce away from the playground and into his red van. They say Dulce was seated in the back seat and then driven away. Her disappearance, of course, has sparked an all-out search 2 days and 2 nights, and now into the third day. This community is doing its part to help, too.
Former FBI Special Agent J.J. Claver was direct. It would have been significantly more effective to have that alert circulating within hours, not the following day. Every hour without it was an hour the public was not on alert. By the end of the first week, more than 300 officers involved, more than 500 vehicles checked, more than 200 locations searched. Dive teams in the water. Aerial searches from above. Sex offenders in the region tracked down and required to account for their whereabouts. And still, no confirmed sighting, no physical evidence, no suspect, no answers. As the investigation continued, complications layered on top of one another in ways that made an already difficult case significantly harder. Social media exploded.
And there are plenty of rumors swirling around on social media, many of which have gotten back to the little girl's pained family members. We spoke to Dulce's aunt, Maria Alavez, who says the family is not only struggling to stay strong while they search, she feels the need to defend her sister, Dulce's mom.
There's things going on social. They're saying that she had to do something with it. Like, I think they're not cops for them to say things like that. They can't judge other people.
Police say they've been in constant contact with Dulce's mother, Noema, and will conduct follow-up interviews with more family members. But they're also reading those online posts as well.
Everything plays a role in it. Every comment is investigated.
And of course, police continue their investigation to find this 5-year-old little girl. The Alavez family also doing their part. They are pooling their money together tonight to hopefully offer a reward for any information that may lead to Dulce's safe return. We're live in Bridgeton, New Jersey. Maggie Kent, Channel 6.
Facebook groups dedicated to finding Dulce pulled in thousands of members. People went live from the park, from their living rooms, sharing theories in real time. But alongside the genuine awareness came something damaging: misinformation. Within the first week, false rumors circulated that Dulce had been found. They spread before anyone could stop them, flooding tip lines with noise and consuming press conference time that should have been spent on real leads. Public suspicion also turned toward Noma. Online commenters questioned why she had stayed in the car instead of going to the playground. They questioned her demeanor, calling her too calm, too composed, not emotional enough. Some made outright accusations that she had sold her daughter or that she knew where she was. Noma hit back directly. She said those comments affected her deeply, but she explained something important. She simply does not cry in front of people, not even her own parents. Grief does not come with a standardized script, and judging a mother's authenticity through a culturally foreign lens is not discernment. It is bias. Dr. Phil, who interviewed Noema on national television and in December of 2019, noted explicitly that her first language is Spanish, and that when she made her emotional appeal to her daughter in Spanish, the raw grief was unmistakable. Language matters. Culture matters. There was also the issue of community silence. A significant portion of Bridgeton's population is immigrant, and within that community, the fear of immigration consequences created a very real wall of silence around an investigation that desperately needed people to talk. Investigators acknowledged this publicly and set up channels to protect the identity of callers, but awareness of a problem and fully solving it are two different things. There is no way to know how many people stayed quiet because the risk felt too great. On October 15th, 1 month after Dulce disappeared, investigators released a composite sketch of someone they wanted to speak with. A slender male, possibly Hispanic, between 5'6" and 5'8", approximately 30 to 35 years old, with acne on his face, wearing a black shirt, red trousers, orange sneakers, and a baseball cap. Investigators were careful to say this was someone they wanted to talk to, not a named suspect. Several individuals resembling the sketch were brought in and questioned. All were released. No match confirmed. Cumberland County Prosecutor Jennifer Webb McRae then made a striking public appeal. She urged the community to be alert to any sudden appearance of a young child, roughly 5 to 6 years old, in a family that had not previously had one. That appeal quietly changed the texture of the case. This was no longer just about a missing child in a local park. It was potentially something much larger, much more organized, and much harder to unravel. Thousands of tips came in from every state in the country. The FBI and local law enforcement sorted through an overwhelming volume of information, trying to separate real leads from noise. Former FBI Special Agent Claver acknowledged what anyone who has worked a high-profile case knows, that sheer volume can be as much of a burden as a resource. Every tip has to be logged, evaluated, pursued, or set aside. The capacity to do that thoroughly and quickly is genuinely strained no matter how many investigators are assigned. Psychics came forward. One claimed to have communicated directly with Dulce and said she was buried near her school. The FBI was unambiguous. They do not place credibility on information from psychics. The claims were noted and set aside. But then something stranger happened, something specific enough to demand a real investigative response. In the state of Ohio and communities around Austintown and Weatherfield Township, roughly 500 miles from Bridgeton, 3 separate pieces of correspondence turned up at 3 separate locations. One at a public library, one at an ice cream shop, one at a racetrack and casino. They appeared to be written by the same hand, and they all referenced Dulce Maria Alavez. The library letter was 2 pages long and mentioned the Dr. Phil appearance, but every detail in it could have been found through a basic internet search. The index card at the ice cream shop was left in the outdoor mailbox. The correspondence at the racetrack was the most unusual. No postmark, parts illegible, but the readable portions referenced Dulce by name, her age, her disappearance from Bridgeton, and pointed to a truck stop, a dead-end street, an entrance to woods, with a plea to please look. The return address zip code traced to Mexico, though investigators could not confirm whether it had actually come from there. Investigators in Ohio searched roughly 40 acres near the racetrack with cadaver dogs and infrared technology. Nothing was found. The letters were sent to New Jersey for further forensic analysis. Police Chief Gaimari walked a careful line publicly. He wanted to know if the letters were genuine or a hoax, and he was direct. If someone had sent false information to manipulate an active missing child investigation, he intended to see them prosecuted, because hoaxes are not harmless. They send search teams into fields on fabricated information. They consume resources. They generate false hope for families already living on the edge of what human beings can endure. Around the same time, former family spokesperson Jackie Rodriguez received a letter at her home, sent without a proper address, which raised its own questions about delivery. Inside were scribbled fragments, references to 1776, a campground in Mexico. No coherent message. Just noise dressed up as something important. Police Chief Gaimari said plainly on the one-year anniversary that he still firmly believed there were people in the community who had information and were not sharing it. Not suspects, witnesses, people who had seen something that day and stayed quiet, out of fear, out of loyalty, out of uncertainty about whether what they knew actually mattered. He was asking them once again not to stay quiet. The second anniversary came and Bridgeton held a silent walk.
We're not going to give up. We're going to keep on. I'm going to keep on going out there and searching.
Family and friends gathering and holding on to hope that little Dulce will soon be found. Police released this age-progressed photo of Dulce. This rendering is what she may look like at 7 years old. They're hoping this picture may generate leads. The community will be walking to the police station and lighting candles.
And we want to light her way home. Hopefully it will spark somebody's memory and somebody will come forward and say, yeah, we did see something that I think that's of value.
People carried her image and said her name out loud in a public space, because saying a missing child's name is one of the few things that people who loved her and people who never met her can do together. It was an act of collective refusal. A refusal to let her become just another cold case statistic, another face people scroll past without stopping. An age-progressed image was created and released by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, a digitally generated portrait of what she might look like as she grew older. Hopeful because it assumed she was still alive and still growing. Sobering because of how much time it represented. Investigators continued working the case across New Jersey and into Mexico, following the cross-border dimensions that had always been part of the landscape here. Around the time of what would have been Dulce's 7th birthday, a video surfaced on YouTube that prompted law enforcement to reach out again to Edgar, her father, in Mexico.
But first, it is a question without an answer a year and a half later. Where is Dulce Alavez? The father of the missing South Jersey child has released new video of her this Sunday. Today is her 7th birthday.
Hello, everyone. My name is Edgar Perez.
In his own words, the father of Dulce Maria Alavez with a message on his daughter's 7th birthday.
I'm really sad and hurt. I don't know if my baby girl is okay.
Perez, who was deported in late 2018 and unable to see his daughter in the months leading up to her disappearance, professing to those who questioned his relationship with Dulce Maria that he took care of her from when she was a little baby.
I changed her diaper and did everything for her.
And denying claims he has her or knows where she is.
For those that think that I took my baby girl, let me tell you that I got nothing to do with it. Just like everyone, I want to know where she is.
The specifics were not disclosed publicly, consistent with how active lines of inquiry are handled. What it confirmed was that the case was still being actively monitored. Investigators were still pushing. For Noma, every year has carried a weight that is difficult to comprehend from the outside. She's continued to raise her other children. She's continued to speak publicly when given the chance, because keeping Dulce's name in front of people is one of the only forms of agency available to a mother in her position. She said in one interview that she has all of Dulce's dresses in safekeeping. Her shoes are still there. Her toys have not been moved. Nobody is allowed to touch them. They are there for her. For the day she comes home. Dulce's backpack is still where she left it. The school papers from her last day of kindergarten are still inside. The family has not moved a single thing, because moving anything would feel like giving up, and they are not giving up. There's a version of true crime storytelling that ends with resolution, an arrest, a conviction, a family finally exhaling, a case file stamped closed. Those stories satisfy something almost biological in us, the need for closure, for narrative arcs that complete themselves. The story of Dulce Maria Alavez does not end that way. It does not end at all. It is still happening. Right now, as you watch this, it is still happening. There is still a family in Bridgeton, New Jersey, waking up every morning inside the same unresolved reality they have been living in since September 16th, 2019. This case is not just a mystery. It is a document. It documents what happens when a public park has no cameras on its playground, what happens when a scene is not immediately secured and well-meaning volunteers compromise evidence before it can be collected, what happens when an Amber Alert is delayed by nearly a full day, what happens when community fear of immigration consequences builds a wall of silence around an investigation that needs people to talk, what happens when social media misinformation moves faster than law enforcement can respond. Every one of these gaps is a place where a different outcome might have been possible. Every one of them is worth naming, honestly. Not to assign blame, but because the next case is already out there, and the gaps are still there. The conflicting witness descriptions have never been reconciled. The red van has never been identified or connected to anyone. The composite sketch has never been matched to a confirmed person of interest. The bloodhound trail that ran for an hour and went cold has never been explained. The Ohio letters have never been definitively attributed to anyone. And Manny, the 3-year-old boy who was standing right there, who most likely saw exactly what happened, has never been able to tell investigators what he witnessed in a way that could move the case forward. He was 3 years old. He did not have the language. He did not have the framework. And now he is older, carrying fragments of a Monday afternoon that he may not fully understand, and that only he knows. Nobody knows what happened to Dulce Maria Alavez. And that unknowing is the most honest thing this documentary can offer, because dressing up uncertainty as conclusion would be a disservice to her family, and to what true crime storytelling is supposed to be at its best. Not entertainment built on someone else's tragedy, but a genuine attempt to understand what happened, hold systems accountable, and keep a name alive that deserves to be remembered. Dulce Maria Alavez, born April 2014, last seen September 16, 2019, at Bridgeton City Park in New Jersey, 5 years old, white pants with butterflies and flowers, white sandals, a yellow shirt with a koala on it, a little girl who loved Frozen and pretended to be a princess and gave hugs and kisses to everyone she loved. She has not been found. The investigation is active. The family's still waiting, and the door is still open. If you have any information related to the disappearance of Dulce Maria Alavez, please contact the Bridgeton Police Department, the FBI, or the New Jersey State Police Missing Persons Unit. There is a dedicated tip line for Spanish-speaking callers. A reward for information leading to her whereabouts remains available. No details too small. No piece of information is too old. If you know something, please say something. And if this story stayed with you, share it. Put it in front of someone who may never have heard her name before. The right person seeing the right information at the right moment has broken cold cases before. It can happen again. Dulce deserves that chance. Her family deserves that chance. And somewhere out there, the answer to the story is still waiting to be found.